always like to do a little bit of a evaluation before and after a session, simply because this is very subtle work that we're doing. And oftentimes we don't realize how much is shifting, how much is changing when we're doing a session. And I think evaluation gives us a great sense of where we're starting, what's shifting as a result of the session. And even more importantly, I believe wholeheartedly that evaluation in a session really shows a client that they have the capacity to heal.
Yeah.
And not only that they have the capacity to heal, but they are healing right now. That is worth the weight in gold. Because when oftentimes when we come to the table, whether it's in a body talk session or any other modality, we might be kind of at the end of our rope. We might be pretty frustrated. We might have become used to not getting results. And I think the moment that we can show a client that change is happening, and it's happening right now, is a really important part of the process.
Yeah.
So if it's okay with you, as we do a little session, I'm going to take you through a little bit of a self-evaluation first and get some feedback as to, you know, what's going on in your body right now. What are you experiencing? And then we'll do the session, and then we'll come back and we'll do a reevaluation.
Go
Is that
ahead.
okay?
I'm positioning myself, both feet on the ground
Now
and stuff.
Perfect. Now, I don't know, is it possible? I know that you're hooked up here with your microphone. Is it possible for you to stand up, or is it?
I can
are you on
try.
a-
I don't know if you can
I don't
fully
have to
see
see
me.
you. It's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Then I
Just as long
stand
as
up.
you're not caught with your headphones. Okay. Good. All righty. So now just take a couple of small steps in place. Just move your body a little bit. And then bring your feet to stillness.
Yes.
And close your eyes. Now, with your eyes closed, can you just tell me a little bit about what it feels like to stand still with your eyes closed? Is there movement happening in your body at all?
Yeah, it feels a little bit like I'm moving forward, like my feet are stuck to the ground, but I'm like leaning forward is better way, but on the waist, more on the waist that I'm leaning forward.
And do you feel like you're evenly distributing your weight between both feet, or are you favoring one over the other?
I favor the right now.
Okay. And with your eyes closed, let's just tour through your posture a little bit. Just bring your attention to your head position. Does it feel like it's centered, or do you feel any rotation or side bending, or maybe it's forward or backward?
It's not centered. It like slightly moves to the left.
To the left, okay. And if we were to put a carpenter level across your shoulders, would they feel level, or would you feel like one is higher than the other, or maybe more forward than the other?
I think that the right one is a little bit higher. It's not significant, but it feels a little bit higher than the left one.
Okay. And how about your arms? Are they hanging evenly at your side?
No, that left one also feels like lower and heavier a little bit.
Okay. Let's do the same with your hips. If you put that level across your hip bones, do you feel any asymmetry there?
No, they feel symmetrical.
Okay. And with your eyes closed, can you take a couple of deep breaths all the way in and all the way out? And as you're breathing, I just really want you to be focusing on comparing the inhale and the exhale. Maybe one is easier or deeper than the other. What do you feel there?
It's way easier to exhale for me. And it's very interesting when I was focusing on the inhale, it feels like I can better breathe into the right part of my lung than in the left part. It's like it can fill up easier. That's how it felt.
Okay. And with your eyes closed, just scan through your body for any areas of ache or pain or tension. And if you find any, I want you to give them a grade on a scale of 1 to 10. So 1, it's just like a little awareness. 10, it's intense.
I have definitely tension in my neck area. I would say a 2.
Okay.
No, everything else feels without tension, feels flowy.
Okay. Alrighty. And if you bring your attention up into your brain, how does it feel to hang out in there? Is it loud? Is it busy? Are there monkeys? Is it empty? How would you describe it?
It is calm, but it feels heavy. It feels like it's really sunken into the skull. It's not like a flowy, easy, airy feeling. It's more like heavy.
Okay. All right. Very good. So that's our first little snapshot. You can come on back. We'll do a short session for you, and then we'll go back and revisit. We'll see what changed as a result. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So I'm going to do the session with the procedural questions out loud. I don't typically do them out loud for clients. Typically what I will communicate to a client is where those opportunities for healing exist, what the story is, what the relationships are. So I'm kind of leading them down the journey with me. But because it might be useful for your listeners to hear the procedural process that we do in BodyTalk, I will do that today. And I just want to say it might not make any sense to the listeners, but I just want you to be aware of sort of the consistency of the language, and that there is a process that we're working through over and over and over again as we're identifying what we call priorities in BodyTalk. And I think that word priority needs a little bit of context, because priority to us as a BodyTalk practitioner is where that opportunity for healing exists today. Okay, it's like a key that unlocks a door. It is not indicative of a problem. It's indicative of an opportunity to step forward toward healing. It's a potential. So I just want to highlight that, because again, we can sometimes have a skewed or misinterpretation of that word. Okay, so I'm just going to have you take a couple of deep breaths in and out. I'm going to do the same. And as you're breathing, I'm establishing my no and I'm establishing my yes, my reflexive response, so that as I work through the protocol with my procedural questions, I'll be using that reflex to identify the yes or the no. Okay. All right, so permissions of priority, no. Sections of priority, yes. Section 1 of priority, no. Section 2, no. 3, no. 4, yes. Details on section 4 priority, yes. More specific, yes. Body chemistry, active memory, cellular repair, lymph. So we're going to work with lymph. Lymph is working primarily in this context with the lymph nodes. So I'm going to go a little further, and then I'll give you a better description of what it is that we're doing here. Okay. Further, more specific on lymph is yes. Client hand position, zygoma, clavicles is the diaphragm. So I'm just going to make a note of that. When we go to balance this, we're going to use the diaphragm as a type of supportive pump to these lymph nodes that we're going to be supporting today. So the diaphragms play a really important role in moving fluid in the body. Every time you breathe in and out, they're creating a pumping mechanism. And so in this particular balance, we identify which one of these diaphragms is going to be supporting the balance of the lymphatic system here. So we'll come back to that one. All right, so further more specific on the nodes, cervical, clavicular, axilla, further more specific now. Okay, so we're gonna work with the axillary lymph nodes. These are very important filters. They help to filter out pathogens, so bacteria, viruses, toxins. They help to filter out anything essentially that shouldn't be circulating in our blood. And housed in these little lymph nodes are important immune fighting cells. So it's also a place where we see the immune system go into activity. Now we're going to work to support optimal function in the nodes of the underarms. So we're going to work with them bilaterally, just an opportunity here to optimize their function. And I'm going to see if we have any further information on why they're coming up as a priority today. Okay, so do we have further details on the axillary nodes? We do. Orientation, no. Definition, yes. Physiology definition is yes here. So we're going to, this is specifically working at a physiological level, right? And interestingly, there's two physiological functions that we're supporting here, both the concept of filtration, so just helping to create greater efficiency and filtration, but also in immunity. So not just the filtration aspect, but we're highlighting the immune function here as well. So I'm just writing these things down when I'm working with the client. I always write down the priorities and what we call the formula. So the formula is something that happens when we have more than one thing connected. We haven't quite gotten there yet, but I'm making a note of it just because every word in a session is a vibrational frequency. And when we create a formula for a client, or I should say we observe a formula for a client, it's like a vibrational remedy. So I'm writing these down just to evoke the frequency as well. So we have the physiology of immunity and of filtration. Okay. Further physiology definition, no. Further definition, yes. Consciousness, physiology, we're in emotion actually. So this is also a really interesting opportunity just to mobilize emotion. You know, emotion is a chemical in the physical body. And so when your brain experiences emotion, it produces what we call a neuropeptide. And these are chemicals of communication. Emotion is designed to create motion in us. When we don't respond in the moment in the way that it's designed to help us to move, we have a tendency to store it in our tissues. And like any other chemical, if it builds up in a tissue, it can affect its function. So when we have an emotional definition, it just means that there is some toxicity that's emotion in nature, and we're going to get that moving. So the body can either use that emotion in the way that it was meant to use it, or it can eliminate it like any other chemical in the body. So I just need to identify what emotion we're working with here. And it's the emotion of anger, but it takes me a little bit further to identify as frustration.
Amazing. It's so fitting.
So let's get that frustration on the move, because once we get it moving, instead of being a frustration state, it becomes motivation, it becomes productivity. And in fact, anger in the body is the fuel of repair. So very important, of course, when we're working anytime with supporting healing. Okay, so we have further on angers or frustrations, no. Further emotional definition is no. Further definition is no. Further details on these axillary nodes is no. So we know all we need to know about these guys, but let's see if we have what we call a link in BodyTalk, which is just establishing a relationship. And we do, and it's going to go into, sorry, I went a little fast there. I'll slow it back down again. Okay, so is the link within lymph? No. Is the link in section 4? Yes. Details on section 4? Yes. More specific is yes. Body chemistry is yes. So we're going to work quite specifically here with the immune system. Now, in this particular technique, we use the saliva because the saliva of the body contains the energetic blueprint of everything that's happening biochemically in your body. So we're going to use a little bit of saliva. Now, I know because we're working here on a recording, I'm going to get you to use your finger. Typically, I would use a Q-tip or a cotton swab or something to allow the client to put a little saliva on there. And then we're going to put that saliva around the area of the navel. Okay, so if you can put a little bit of a saliva on your finger, and you can run down the skin just around your navel. Now, the reason we use the navel in BodyTalk is because it is the highest concentration in your body of neurology, vascularity, and energy. It's like the only place outside of your brain that has that concentration of nerve endings. And it's also a very porous area, right? It's an area that prior to birth in utero, it's where you absorbed all your nutrients. So it's highly absorptive. It is an area where the frequencies of the body can align to the frequency of what we put on the navel. So sometimes if we're working with an environmental factor, for example, or here in body chemistry, if we're working with a toxin or a pathogen of some sort, it highlights the presence of that in the system. So, all right, let's just see where we're going to go. So we're working here with body chemistry. Further, more specific is yes. Microbes is no. Toxins, no. Allergies, no. Intolerances. So an intolerance is just something where the nervous system, immune system is inappropriately overreacting. So I'm going to see where we're going to work here. We're going to find a little bit of balance for you. Okay. And it's interesting, it's one of your body's own chemicals.
Ah, that's always bad.
Yes. Okay. So I went through, is it something ingested, inhaled, absorbed? And I got no. We have a category in BodyTalk we call other. And that's just taking us to things like climate. Sometimes we can literally be intolerant to a climate. It can take us to neuropeptide or neurotransmitters, hormones, a variety of things that we consider other than an external factor. So here we're working with a hormone, actually. And it's interestingly, it's estrogen. Okay. So all that really means here is that we have an opportunity to create a greater balance between the immune system and the endocrine system. Right? For some reason, the immune system overreacting or creating inappropriate inflammation to fluctuations in estrogen levels. And we can find easier balance here. Okay. And as I said, one of the benefits of that is lowering any kind of inappropriate inflammation that might be happening in the body. Now, when the immune system is attacking one of our own chemicals, we call that autoimmunity. It means the immune system, for whatever reason, has misidentified something that is actually an imperative part of our function as something foreign. And so I always think that anytime we can work with intolerance, especially towards something that's our own, is a very important area to work because it obviously helps to bring down inappropriate inflammatory processes. Okay, so further, more specific is no. Do we have further details on the body chemistry? It's no. So we don't have anything else we need to know about that. But we're not quite ready to balance yet. So we still have a little bit more of a story that's happening here. Okay. So is body chemistry still a priority? No. Section 4, no. Am I going forward on the chart? No. Am I going backward on the chart? Yes. So our chart is like a roadmap. I'm trying to figure out, am I going forward or am I in reverse? So section 3, section 2, section 1. So we're going back up here. Details on section 1, yes. More specific is yes. All right, 5 elements, 5 senses, consciousness, EGBs, organs, endocrines. The body parts come up as a priority. So we're working here at the physical body somewhere, but further more specific is yes, which means I have to keep going. I don't know where in the body I am yet. So is it brain? No. Head? No. Back? No. Chest? No. Abdomen? No. Limbs? No. Are we in the tissues box? Yes. So it's taking me to joints. Joints of the body. Further, more specific, no. So all joints of the body. Okay, so some opportunity here. And we have further details on these joints. So I don't need to go more specifically about them, but I need to know more about them. And in this case, we have something we call a subsession. So this is when we can do a specific balance or balances that are directly related to the joints, something to support them specifically as they relate to this bigger picture, this bigger story. Okay, so here we're going to do a bit of a mind-body balance. And sorry, I jumped quickly. I'll go back and show you how I got there. All right, subsession. So we're working with permissions of priority, no. Sections of priority, yes. Section 1 of priority, yes. Details on section 1, yes. More specific, yes. 5 elements, 5 senses, consciousness. So consciousness is working with our perceptions, right? How do we perceive ourselves? How do we perceive the world? It is perhaps the most influential area that we can work simply because our perceptions create our reality. And when we're working with consciousness, we're working with a theme of the mind, and a theme of the mind that may, in this case, be represented by those joints. So when we have a conflict with that theme in the mind, it can show up in our physical state of health. It can show up like a symptom. It can show up like tension. It can show up like dis-ease, as we would say. Okay, so let's see where we're going to go here in consciousness. Further, more specific is yes. Is it general conscious? No. Is it pathological consciousness? Yes. So pathological consciousness just means it's a theme of the mind that's out of balance. That's all it means. It's like a pendulum. You know, let's say the theme is control. Control could be like a pendulum where we have a whole swing. On one end, we have utmost control. At the other end, we have absolutely no control. And we have a range of our relationship to control. If we are stuck with the belief system that we must always be in control, for example, that could cause the pendulum to stop swinging. And we call that a pathology. It just means we're out of balance, we're stuck. And so any situation and when we're not in utmost control, we're in a state of stress. Now, that's just an example. That's not where we're going here, but just to give you a sense of what pathological consciousness means. Okay. So let's see where we're going to go. Is this pathological consciousness associated with the joints? It's not specifically, which is interesting. Okay. Is it associated with an organ? Yes. Okay. Lungs, heart, liver. It's associated with the liver. And the liver represents many different themes of the mind, themes like planning, organization, communication. In this case, it took me to the consciousness of action, but it's taking me a little what we call more specifically. So it's not quite the right terminology. I just need to play with it a little bit. Interestingly, the consciousness of inaction.
Yeah.
When things aren't moving.
And I am not moving. Like for the last 6 months, it's like I feel like I need to rest and my body wants me to rest, and I have a problem with resting because I'm usually always on the move.
My goodness. Okay, so that makes sense as to why it would come up as a priority, is because there's a bit of stress around that. And the nature of this balance is something we call an individuation balance. And individuation is a Jungian psychology term. I'm not going to go into a lecture on Jungian psychology, but individuation is basically when the mind is ready to let go of an old limiting belief system or systems. There can be many, right? Things that we've been conditioned to believe, like I must always be on the move, right? And if all of a sudden I can't move, I can be in a state of stress. So in this case, instead of needing to identify any one belief system, we're doing a balance that essentially helps to shift anything that's out of alignment with the concept of, in this case, stillness, okay? Or we'd say inaction. Okay. All right, so there's further details on the consciousness of inaction is no. Is there a link in the subsession? No. Is implementation of the subsession a priority? No. Is the subsession complete? Yes. Further details on the joints? Yes. So we do have to know a little bit more still about these joints, and it's actually going to take me into something we call an other systems definition. So it means we're looking at something other than Western physiology, and we're going to look at something that's coming from Chinese medicine. So just bear with me for a moment. This part I'm going to do a little bit quietly just because it's involving some of my own studies in Chinese medicine. And it's actually going to take me to a description associated with an acupuncture point. And this is a large intestine point in Chinese medicine, large intestine 4. But what's most specific about it is it's often called the great eliminator. It's really when we can let go of what we no longer need, right? And so we're bringing, at this point comes up as a priority just to give us a sense that when we're balancing the joints today, we're also balancing from the perspective of releasing tension, right? Releasing attachment actually is a better term, releasing attachment.
I love it already.
Excellent. Okay, so there's nothing further there. Further details or further definition rather of priority? No. Further details on the joints is no. Okay. Do you have a further link? No. Is implementation a priority? Yes. Is tap out a priority? Yes. Okay. So now we're ready to balance this, what we call a formula in BodyTalk, because it's a little bit like a chain of events. We're going to start out by supporting efficiency and filtration and immunity in those important nodes in your underarm. And that's the balance we're going to be actually physically doing. That is going to set off a balance within the immune system to help to bring a healthier relationship between the immune system and estrogen. Right? So we don't have any kind of inappropriate reactivity happening in the immune system when your body is producing and circulating estrogen. And then that has a positive influence on the joints. And the joints at the moment, as we work with them, also represent a certain mind-body connection and give us the opportunity to shift any old outdated belief systems around inaction, things that may have been causing stress, right? When things aren't moving the way you want them to move and the stress that happens as a result, and then that's showing up in your joints, literally. We're also drawing on this energy from the acupuncture point that we call large intestine 4, primarily just because it's representing release of attachment and what that means, right? The flow of energy that comes when we let go of attachment. And rather that when we let go of attachment, it allows us to be in a state of ease and a state of receiving. Okay, so now we're ready to balance. So what I'm going to get you to do for me, Dagmar, can you take a hand just to your lower rib cage area in the region of just to represent the diaphragm muscle, the respiratory diaphragm. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a stimulation. I'm using my own body here as a focus tool. If we were physically in the office, I would do this on your body. And then I'm going to have you take some nice deep breaths in and out. And as I'm stimulating the lymph nodes, I'm also doing the tapping on those 3 brains. So first on the head brain. And I'm moving to the heart brain. And then finally to the gut brain. And then I have to repeat that because we're working with these bilateral nodes. So I'm working in both underarms. So we're going to repeat the process just now on the opposite side. And you're continuing with the breathing. Excellent. Very good. And you can relax your hand. And I'm just checking to see if this formula is still a priority. It's not. Now, before I move on to see if there's anything else we need to do, I always just like to recommend that when we're working with lymph nodes, it's always a good idea after the session to drink some extra water. Because when the lymphatic system is active, when it's being efficient, oftentimes cells in that area might actively rehydrate, but your body also, or your lymphatic system is also balancing levels of water in your system. So it's always a good idea just to support with that. Okay. if you've had any aches or pains, or you've had any inflammation in your body, that's an area where we could see improvement, right? If that immune system is no longer inappropriately causing inflammation. If we, as I said, help to shift this pattern around inaction, and we find it fall into more of a position of ease as it relates to the movement of time or the physical movement of our body, etc., then that can have a very positive influence on your joints. So that's something that you could notice as well. Okay, now let's see. So are the limbs still a priority? No. Section 4 still a priority? No. Are we going forward on the chart? No. Are we going back on the chart? Yes. So there's something else we still need to do. We're not quite done yet. So section 3, section 2, section 1. Details on section 1 is yes. More specific is yes. 5 elements, 5 senses, consciousness, EGBs. So this is something called essential general balances. This group of techniques all relate to communication within the body and the mind, and really things that can impact natural communication. And so let's see where we're going to go here. Furthermore, specific is yes. SB, no. Switching, no. Cortices is yes. So cortices is a balance that helps to support communication between the hemispheres of the brain and between the brain and the body. Further, more specific on the cortices is no. Further details on the cortices is yes. We have something we call an orientation here, which is just an external factor that in some way may have been influencing communication here in the brain. Time, person. It's an object, actually. Further on the object is yes. Is it an object at home? Yes. Further is yes. So we need to identify. Is it in your immediate space now? Yes. I'm just like drawn to your headset, but that's not it. Further, yes. So you must be plugged into a computer. Yeah. And do you have a keyboard? Because it goes a little further on the keyboard.
Oh, it's not an external keyboard. It's really like the regular keyboard of the laptop.
Okay, so there's, for some reason, the keyboard comes up as an external factor. I don't know why, right? Orientations are interesting because they're really subconscious. A lot of times it's reflecting an association between that object and the environment and some kind of unresolved or stressful experience from your past. So a lot of times we have no recollection of it because your subconscious is constantly taking snapshots of your life experience. So those snapshots include the environmental factors in any given moment. So if I have a stressful moment and I don't resolve that stress, so it stays kind of like an active stress in my system, any of the things that were in the environment at the time could trigger that stress pattern. And obviously I'm not conscious of it because it's not necessarily even part of the memory of the stress, but it is a part of that memory in the subconscious mind. Because your subconscious is like a cloud of information and it's storing all of these factors. Okay, so as we support communication in your brain, we're also creating a healthier relationship with this keyboard and whatever it was doing to kind of trigger an old stress pattern that it didn't need to do anymore. Okay, do we have any further orientation as a priority? No. Further details on cortices is no. Is there a link? Yes. It's actually within the EGB. So we're finding a relationship not only here with the brain, but within something else here in this category. Okay, so details on EGBs is yes. More specific is yes. SB, no. Switching is yes. The switching is a balance that helps to regulate the adaptability in your nervous system. The stress threshold, how much stress does your nervous system consider okay? And how much, when does it go into a fight-flight response? So switching helps us to come into kind of a more adaptable nervous system, a less reactive one. Okay, so do we have further more specific? No. Further details on switching? Yes. Orientation is no. Definition is yes. Consciousness? No. Physiology? No. Emotion? No. 5 elements. Oh, we have a 5-element definition. This goes from Chinese medicine and the concept that there are 5 energies that are like the ingredients of everything that we are. So when we're working with one of the 5 elements, we're working with one of our core energies in our body mind that impacts every aspect of us in some way. So I'm just going to figure out what it is, and then I'll give you a better sense of what it relates to. So it's taking me to what we call the water element in Chinese medicine, but it wants me to go a little bit further as it's relating to the concept of survival. That's a theme, very strong theme in the water element. Everything associated with this element really helps us to survive in life. And sometimes in this case, we can have a sort of an excess survival fear. So a reactivity state in our body may be that we're just trying to survive through life, or things may trigger our sense of threat that may not need to. So when we balance the nervous system, we're balancing your relationship to that theme as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Love it.
Further on water is no. Further 5-element definition, no. Further definition, no. Further details on switching, no. Is there a further link? No. Is implementation a priority? Yes. Is tap out a priority? Yes. So now we can balance this. So again, what is the opportunity here? Opportunity to support communication within your brain, between the brain and the body, to bring focus, to bring ease and efficiency of function, to, in essence, really lower or balance your stress levels as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if our stress threshold is too low, we may be reacting to things we don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just bringing greater adaptability into that, so that, I can't take the stressors out of your life, but what we can do is help you to become more responsive to them and less reactive to them. Okay. All right. Excellent. So again, I'm going to get you just to focus on your breathing. The Cortices technique involves about 5 hand positions. I'm going to involve you on the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but for the first few, I'm going to do all the work and you're just going to breathe. So anytime you can focus on that breath all the way in, all the way out. And I'm using hand positions here just to kind of traverse from the back to the front of the brain, creating a bridge of connection between those 2 hemispheres. And the breathing is an important element of every BodyTalk balance, because it helps your brain essentially to scan the range of high frequencies and low frequencies in your body. It's our brain's ability to tap into, tune into every aspect, not just of the physical, but even of our mental, emotional state as well. And then finally, in this last hand position, if you can, I'm going to have you bring your hands lightly to the either side of your head. Perfect. And you're going to take some deep breaths in and out. This is just linking those temporal lobes and what we call the limbic brain, the emotional brain, the instinctive brain. Ooh, I feel very relaxed. You might be feeling that as well. Often my body's giving me a bit of indication of what you're feeling. Perfect. And you can relax your hands. Ooh, do you feel that relaxation?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so we have a little bit of what we call downloading happening, which is just letting the body integrate before we can move on. And as that's happening, I'll give you a little bit of a sense that oftentimes when switching is balanced, especially, we just feel much more at ease. The things that used to push our buttons just don't really push our buttons in the same way. So they can still happen, but we kind of flow with it with ease. It's not a big deal, so to speak. It can also really positively influence our relationships, because a lot of times when we're in a bit of what we call a switch state, we can have some walls up, and we don't even realize that we do, but it can impact how we relate to others. So oftentimes our relationships benefit when that nervous system is in a healthy state of balance. Okay, so downloading is complete. The formula is no longer a priority. Cortices is still a priority, no. EGB is still a priority, no. Section 1 still a priority, no. Are we going backward on the chart? No. Are we going forward on the chart? No. Is this the end of the session? It is. Is future BodyTalk a priority? Yes. Is a specific time a priority? No. Specific practitioner a priority? No. So what that means is that there's more to the story. We can continue this process. There is not a specific time frame that just simply means that you could have BodyTalk tomorrow, you could have it next week, you could have it next month. Typically for my clients, I recommend about once a month or every 6 weeks is a good follow-up time. Specific practitioner helps me to identify, is there somebody specifically that would be supportive for you? In this case, the answer was no, which means you and I could continue that journey, or you could, of course, visit any one of your local BodyTalk practitioners. Excellent. All right. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a reevaluation, Dagmar, and see what's changed in your body.
I'm
so
getting
if you're
up
okay
again.
To stand up. Excellent. We'll walk through that. Okay. So let's just do again a couple of steps in place as you did before, and then bring your feet to stillness.
Yes.
And you can close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, tell me a little bit about your balance. Does it still feel like you're moving forward?
No, it's actually like, it's not like my belly is tucked in, but it feels like it's better in place. So I'm not leaning forward anymore.
Okay. And do you feel like you're evenly distributing your weight?
Yes. More on the heels when I look at like I feel the entire feet, but it's like evenly on both heels.
Very nice. Okay. Now, with your eyes closed, just bring your attention to your head position. Do you still feel like it's off to the left, or does it feel a little more centered? What are you feeling there?
It's a little bit still to the left, but way more centered. And the left hemisphere, especially the frontal cortex, feels like super heavy.
Ah, interesting. Okay. And how about your shoulders? If you brought that carpenter's level across your shoulders, does that right one still feel higher?
It's still a little bit higher, but they both moved further back. They're not hanging. It was more like hanging in the front before, and now it's like I would stand more up straight. That's how it feels. But it's really tiny, just a tiny thing of being more on the right side up.
Okay. And how about the arms? Do they feel like they're hanging evenly at your side, or what do you feel
Yes.
there?
Yeah.
Good. And I know that your hips felt pretty symmetrical, but just tune into them now to see if there's anything that you notice that's different or improved in any way.
They feel stable. So yeah, feel good.
Okay, good. Now let's do a couple of breaths in and out with your eyes closed. And let's just compare that inhale and that exhale, both to one another, but also comparing to how they felt a few minutes ago.
Way better. It feels like the lungs like distribute the air evenly now. Like it's definitely not like before.
Excellent. Okay. And with your eyes closed, just tune into that neck. I remember that you had a sensation there about a 2 out of a 10. What are you feeling there now?
Super easy. It's like it would be a 0 right now. It's like
Excellent.
it doesn't feel stressed or anything else.
Wonderful. And what's happening in the brain? I know you already said that that left cortex was feeling different. Is there anything else? I know you said that the brain felt super heavy before.
Yeah, it doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels like it moved like I can't say it differently, like 2 millimeters up in total, and they're still processing on the left frontal cortex because it's still like working. It's like it's not a hammering. I can't describe that. It's like a movement, a vibration. It's like, leave us alone. We're still working here.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. Anything else that you're aware of?
I feel lighter in total. Like that's really cool. I enjoy that. It's like nothing feels heavy anymore.
Oh, lovely. All right. Well, come on back and you can have a seat. And yeah, I always ask my clients too, rather that what came up in the session makes sense to you. Does it resonate at some level?
Absolutely. All of it. It's like it was so interesting when you came to the liver and then you said like or beforehand already said like, oh, we have the emotion of anger and no, it's frustration. I was like, yes, I totally feel that. that was so resonating. It was like amazing. Also the joints, because I constantly have that topic with the lymphatic drainage and it's like, yep, and joints and inflammation. And I do lymphatic drainage all the time for myself. So I was like, yeah, please do something about that. So that absolutely highly resonated with me.
Excellent, excellent. And I think that it's important sometimes that to realize that we're working in the subconscious and not everything is going to relate consciously because we're digging around in the 90% of your programs that you may not even realize are there. But oftentimes after the session, even hours later, days later, we have additional aha moments where we're like, oh, I know what that was all about. So it's quite an interesting process because it does come up to our awareness over time.
Yeah.
So excellent. I hope that's really helpful for you, Dagmar.
Definitely. I was like, oh my goodness, because I was supposed to have a BodyTalk session yesterday. It fell through and it's like, now I'm getting a session and it's so amazing. Like it was really on point. I really love it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
No, it was really, really good. And it's like for me, it's always interesting to feel, especially when we were typing the two structures out. I got so hot, like everything felt like, woo, everything is on fire. And the moment the formula is through, it's like, shh, it's just what you said, like, oh, the relaxation sets in. I'm like, yes, and everything is like flushing out. It's Always such a nice thing.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
No, it's really good.
Excellent.
So that is definitely a great thing to see how it works. And this is just like a tiny, tiny picture of what you can do. Like there's so much more, but it's great to have a session done. And so people know this is how it could work when they try it out for themselves. And I always hope people try out BodyTalk because it's so important. And it's so, it's like, I just can say it takes load off you. It's uninteresting in which area. Every time after a session, I feel like I feel better. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of people like to have.
Oh, definitely. And I think that, even in just that little session, you see the correlation between the physical body, the mind, our energies, the environment. You see that it is a system that really honors
Yeah.
the holistic aspect of self.
Yeah.
And and I think that, ultimately we're reducing stress, we're helping to create a greater state of ease at any one of those levels, physical, mental, emotional, even spiritual. And oftentimes, as you say, we just feel better. We feel there's a weight released, and that's literally why, we're helping to move out of tension and into ease, which is our
Yeah.
natural state of being. And I think that the benefits speak for themselves.
Absolutely. I really feel so good right now. It's like so chilled. Oh, so good.